I don't know how many of you have paid a lot of attention to this, but the Blue Jays have a pitcher that they have released. And that pitcher, I want to make sure that I get his name right, is, let's see, Bass. Anthony Bass, I believe, is, Anthony Bass, relief pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. So the Blue Jays have released Anthony Bass from their team. This is despite the fact that last year Bass had a 1.54 ERA, 73 games for the Blue Jays. He was their best pitcher, and that was the best, both career bests. And the quote here from the GM is Ross Atkins says, "There's a myriad of variables, and performance is usually the driving one. Performance was a large aspect of this decision. Distraction was a small part of it and something that we had to factor in." What was Anthony Bass's distraction? He supported the idea of a Target and a Bud Light boycott. Okay? So, what's going on here? And he did that, by the way, on his Instagram story. So Anthony Bass goes on his private Instagram page, and on his story, he says that he shares a footage saying that he supports the Target and Bud Light boycotts. Immediately, that is considered to be unacceptable, and many different members of the sports media come out and demand that he be cut from the team. He has to apologize, and ultimately he gets cut anyway. And the GM even comes out and says his distraction was one of the reasons that we made this choice, right? His political opinions. Now, I want you to compare this with Colin Kaepernick. I haven't seen anybody else make this analogy. Colin Kaepernick, in uniform at work, decided to take a political stand, right? And by take a political stand, I mean refusing to stand for the national anthem. Colin Kaepernick got to play the whole rest of the year with the San Francisco 49ers. He got a multi-million-dollar deal from Nike. He has continued to get all sorts of deals, Netflix special, all sorts of book deal, I believe. All of these different things have accrued to his benefit. Yet, in his uniform at work, Colin Kaepernick took a political stance. And when Colin Kaepernick was not hired the next year, left-wing sports media lost its mind and said this was unacceptable. Okay? Consider and compare that with Anthony Bass at the Toronto Blue Jays. Anthony Bass, in his private time, on his private Instagram, on the story at the top of it, said that he supported a boycott of Target and Bud Light, something that a huge majority of Americans also support. Again, out of uniform, not at work, and he got fired. Not one word defending Anthony Bass from all these people who defended Colin Kaepernick. How is that possible? Especially since Anthony Bass was a pitcher sharing his opinion away from work, not in his uniform, on his own private social media. So on the one hand, and not only that, many sports media demanded that Anthony Bass get fired. They said it was unacceptable that he was continuing to represent the Toronto Blue Jays given his political opinions. Well, wait a minute. So it's unacceptable for Colin Kaepernick to get to finish the rest of his season and then for a team not to want to sign him. In fact, that is a direct attack on Colin Kaepernick. Most of them say they're First Amendment rights, though, even though the government's not stopping this from happening, right? But in uniform at work, Kaepernick gets to share his political opinions, makes millions of dollars, gets to finish the whole rest of his season, gets to start at quarterback to finish his season, gets all sorts of rewards. Meanwhile, Anthony Bass shares his political opinions on his private Instagram account, and sports media demands that he get fired. It's almost like this is not about free speech at all, or even about political opinions and your ability to share them at all. It's about the sports media supports people who have the same opinions as them, and they discriminate against people that have different opinions as them. Got to point it out. I am content neutral. This is actually similar to the point that I've made for years. If Colin Kaepernick had taken a knee in uniform at work to support, let's say, ending the right to gay marriage, all of those people who said how brave and important it was for athletes to speak out would have demanded that the San Francisco 49ers fire him. This is important. You must stand on principle and must stand on consistency of precedent over political persuasion. And what I would ask you is this: how many people actually do that? How many people are actually consistent? Your boy here is, right? Content neutral policies. What I said was Colin Kaepernick should have the right to share any opinion under the sun in his own private life. Any political opinion. I don't care what it is. But he shouldn't have the right in uniform at work to decide to dive into politics. That's my opinion. But what the sports media is doing is they are not even allowing Anthony Bass to have his own political opinions outside of work. They're, in fact, demanding that he get fired for what he says outside of work. So they want Colin Kaepernick in uniform at work to be able to say whatever he wants because they agree with his opinion. They don't want Anthony Bass in his own private life to be able to say whatever he believes because they disagree with it. That's the height of hypocrisy. Note what's going on. I'm going to write on this because I'm so fired up about it.